And finally, we have exercise number 4, which is the advanced problem. And what we're going to do here is we're going to combine all of our knowledge of factoring to see what we could do to this equation right here. So let's start off by setting it equal to 0. We have 2x squared minus 2x minus 84 equals 0. And now our first step is always looking for that GCF. And look at this, we do have all of our terms divisible by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to factor out a 2. Now, what's going to be left over inside is x squared minus x minus 42, and that's going to all be equal to 0. So now I'm going to bring down the 2, and I'm going to see if I could find two numbers that multiply to 42 and combine to get negative 1. So again, I'm going to start off each set of parentheses with x and x, because x times x gives me x squared. And then 6 times 7 gives me 42, and it seems like I could get a negative 1 by combining those, probably by making the 7 negative and the 6 positive. So now, this one's a little different because this is just a constant outside of parentheses. So we're not going to set the constant equal to 0, or we could, and then we'll just see that 2 equals 0, and we'd reject that. So instead, what we're going to do is we're just going to set anything with an x in the factor equal to 0. So we're going to have x plus 6 equals 0, and x minus 7 equals 0. So let's subtract 6 over here to get x equals negative 6. And let's add 7 over here to get x equals 7. Now, what you do want to take into consideration with this too is when you multiply a quadratic by a number greater than 1, what happens to it? And if you said it gets narrower, then you're on the right track, because that's all that this 2 is doing, is it's taking this quadratic that goes through these two zeros and making it narrower. All right. In part B, we have 3x squared minus 4x minus 15 equals 0. And again, we look for a GCF, and there is no GCF. This one is actually going to involve the AC method. So what I'm going to start off by doing is multiplying A times C and rewriting my equation as 3x squared minus 4x, and then 3 times 15 will give me negative 45. Now, in order to do the AC method, I'm going to start off each parenthesis with a 3x, but remember that's just for now. And then I need two numbers that multiply to 45 and add to 4. So 9 times 5 will multiply to 45, and it seems like I could get a 4 from a 9 and a 5. So I'm going to make my 9 negative, my 5 positive, because negative 9 plus 5 will give me negative 4. And my final step is going to be divide one of these factors by 3. Because I multiplied by a 3 in the beginning, I want to divide out a 3 at the end. So that's going to leave me with an x minus 3, because 3x divided by 3 gives me x, and negative 9 divided by 3 gives me negative 3. And I bring down the 3x plus 5 over here. And remember, we're not just factoring now, we're setting this equal to 0. So let me just move this on up. Okay. And since we're just factored right now, we still want to solve this thing for 0. So we're going to set each one of these factors equal to 0. And then we're going to solve each equation for 0. So over here is one step. We're going to add 3, and we're going to get x is equal to 3. And over here is going to take 2 steps, because we're going to subtract 5 on both sides, get 3x equals negative 5, divide by 3, and we could go ahead and we could just leave that as x equals negative 5 over 3. So our two zeros here are x equals 3 and x equals negative 5 over 3. Same thing for part C is we're not going to have a GCF. We're going to have to use the AC method. So again, 5x squared minus 6x minus 8 equals 0. We're going to begin by doing the AC method by multiplying 5 times negative 8. I'll rewrite it as 5x squared minus 6x minus 40. And now I need two numbers that multiply to 40 and combine to get negative 6. So So while we're thinking about that, I'm going to start off by putting a 5x in front of each one of my parentheses. And now those two numbers were 10 and 4, because 10 times 4 gives me 40. And negative 10 plus 4 will give me negative 6. And my last step is to divide one of these by a 5. This first set of parentheses is divisible by 5, so I'll divide a 5 out of there. And I'll be left with x minus 2 times 5x plus 4 equals 0. Now remember, I'm solving for zeros, so I set each factor to equal 0. I'm going to add 2 to get x equals 2 for the first factor. And then for my second factor, I have 5x plus 4 equals 0. I'm going to subtract 4, be left with 5x equals negative 4, and then divide by 5 to get x equal negative 4 over 5. So your two zeros here are x equals 2 and x equals negative 4 over 5. And again, if you were to put this in your calculator and see where the zeros were, they would be at 2 and negative 4 over 5.